You don't know what love is. You don't know how lips hurt until you kissed and had to pay the cost. Till you flipped your heart and you have lost. You don't know what love is. Do you know how a lost heart feels the thought of reminiscing and lips that taste of tears lose their taste for kissing? You don't know how hearts burn for love that cannot live yet never dies. Till you faced each dawn with sleepless eyes. You don't know what love is.
Good morning. My name is Joni Messner, and I'd like to welcome you to this virtual online service of the Unitarian Society of New Haven, also known as USNH. Whoever you are, whether you've been coming for years or are new to USNH, we welcome you here in all your uniqueness. We are a congregation that believes Black lives matter, that every person has the right to affirm their own gender identity, that all people are inherently worthy. We acknowledge that our sanctuary sits on land traditionally that of the Quinnipiac and other Native peoples. As a congregation, we seek to heal the wounds of the past and present in the ongoing work of reconciliation and justice seeking. We do this as part of our quest to create beloved community. If you are new here, you are especially welcome. The membership team will host a Zoom meeting after the service for people interested in knowing more about USNH. You can get on the Zoom by emailing membership@usnh.org, which will also be shown on the screen and in the chat. Or maybe over here. If you're thinking about becoming a new member at USNH, to help with your decision, we have scheduled a virtual New to UU class led by our newly settled minister, Reverend Linda Susan. It will be interactive, fun, and give you a chance to meet people and make new friends at USNH. This one-day class will take place via Zoom on Saturday, May 1st from 10:30 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Don't worry, there will be a mid-session break planned. A Zoom link will be sent out closer to the class date. Another important date is Sunday, May 16th, when USNH welcomes new members during the service. More details to come. If you're interested in either of these events, please contact Ana Flores by email at membership@usnh.org by April 26th. Jesse Greist reminds you all that you're welcome for an outdoor, in-person Easter egg hunt at USNH on Easter Sunday, April 4th at 12:30. Children will hunt personalized, socially distant eggs, and all others are welcome to bring chairs, blankets, etc., and spend some time in masked, socially spaced community. Sign up via the link in the USNH newsletter. Also, children and youth are invited to participate in a special Zoom book discussion on April 11th at 10:30. They'll be talking about the book Welcome to Your New Home, which chronicles the true story of a refugee family from Syria who arrived in New Haven on Election Day 2016. Members of IRIS and possibly the family that the book is about will be in the Zoom meeting. Sign up via the link in the USNH newsletter. Today's service is offered to you by the Anti-Racism Task Force, an ongoing working group at USNH of which I am a proud member. If you would like to join the effort, we welcome new members. The anti-racism work is vast, all-encompassing, and very much in line with the mission statement of our congregation, as well as our principles and values. We're happy to see these values reflected in the work of the USNH board, in their consideration of the 8th principle, as well as the recommendations of the UUA's report, Widening the Circle of Concern. Through this service, with our reflections, readings, and music, we hope to share with you some of what we've been exploring in our efforts to understand the need and begin the work of dismantling white supremacy culture in our congregation and in the wider world. We would like to thank everyone who contributed to this service. A special thank you to John Pearson for taking on the music and creating a beautiful framework for our service. To Joan Ciano for her wonderful musical contributions, and Jackie Trimble Shapiro for being our fearless leader, keeping us organized and on task to get this service accomplished. Thanks to Lisa Anderson for her help and support as the liaison from the worship committee, and of course, Rob Cam for making the magic happen. I'd like to light the chalice with words from Dorothy Day. People say, "What is the sense of our small effort?" They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. May we cast a pebble and cause some ripples today.
Good morning. My name is Joan Ciano. I'm a member of the Anti-Racism Task Force of the Unitarian Society of New Haven. This is a reading from the book Centering, Navigating Race, Authenticity, and Power in Ministry, in a chapter by Reverend Walter LaFleur, an African-American UU minister. While our congregations might like to believe that UUs are different from the wider culture, the truth is that we are a part of it and participate in it. Yes, we have a particular Unitarian Universalist culture, but nonetheless, it reflects a white, male, upper middle class, well-educated orientation. The author writes, "For most people of color, it's a culture that is not likely to feel wholly our own, nor is it a culture where we are automatically assumed to be a part of." He continues, Therefore, people of color often find themselves in an environment that does not acknowledge the impact of race, racism, or oppression. The person of color may be the only person in the room who recognizes or anticipates that a racial dynamic is at play. The service today is presented by the Anti-Racism Task Force. We have a commitment to educate ourselves and our congregation about racism and white supremacy, and about how we can engage with and work against their destructive effects. This morning, we hope to inspire the congregation to consider why and how we might change our USNH culture to more fully embrace diversity. We are honoring African American culture and featuring music from that tradition, but we deplore the past and present abuses of all peoples, including Indigenous Americans, and particularly the current hatefulness and violence against Asian Americans. Our vision is expressed in the words of poet Langston Hughes. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where everyone is free. May it be so.
Not My Idea, a book about whiteness, by Anastasia Higginbotham. When grown-ups try to hide scary things from kids, oh no, not again. What? Mom, what not again? It's usually because they're scared too. Who is that with their hands up? Why is that policeman screaming at him? Bang, 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 bang. They want to bury the truth. You notice that this child's parent is turning off the TV, turning off the news. And it sounds like the news is that the police are shooting a person of color. You don't need to worry about this. You're safe. Understand? No. Our family is kind to everyone. We don't see color. Deep down, we all know. Color matters. Skin color makes a difference in how the world sees you and in how you see the world. I want to bring my aunt a gift. This will only take a minute. It makes a difference in how much trouble seems to find you or let you be. Notice in this page, there's a security guard whose job it is to make sure no one steals anything from the store. Notice where the security guard's eyes are looking. I can trace them right to the black child. And there's a big word for that. It's racial profiling, when someone assumes that someone else is doing something bad just because of the color of their skin or because they're not white. In stores, in cars, on sidewalks, at school, your skin color affects the most ordinary daily experiences, including which neighborhoods welcome you. So relieved you got here safely. Why wouldn't we? The protests! You can see these headlines screaming out of the TV. Marchers came to demand justice for the unarmed African American. They demand an end to killings across the nation. This person is watching TV and saying, "They're blocking the road." You may get the message that racism is happening only to black and brown people. Racism is a white person's problem, and we are all caught up in it. I can't watch the news. That police officer was just doing his job. mostly by refusing to look at it. Come away from the TV now. Look, I made your favorite. The kids' family members are trying to distract them from what's happening on the TV. But it makes sense to feel upset about this. You can face this. Understanding the truth takes courage, especially a painful truth about your own people, your own family. Are you all right? Even people you love may behave in ways that show that they think they are the good ones. On this page, you can see that the child's parent is pressing the lock button on the car as they drive through a neighborhood where there are lots of black and brown people because they don't feel safe. But there's no reason not to feel safe here. This is bias and racism. Racism was not your idea. You don't need to defend it. You can bring your curiosity to learn about it and see that it's true. I'll be over here if you need me, okay? In the United States of America, white people have committed outrageous crimes against black people for 400 years. All along, every step of the way, people who love justice and love each other have been fighting back. Many white people did things they never should have done. Many other white people failed to see the problem with this. These choices put wealth and power into white hands, homes, and neighborhoods. Some white people joined the leaders of Black liberation. Liberation equals love and freedom. Here are some of those people. Racism is still happening. It keeps changing and keeps being the same. Notice this person's face and body language. How do you imagine they might be feeling? I felt like that sometimes, learning about racism. You might even be feeling this way listening to this book, and that's okay. And yet, just being here, alive in this moment, you have a chance to care about this, to connect. But connecting means opening, and opening sometimes feels like breaking. Mom, I don't feel good. Uh-oh, should I pull over? I need to know what's going on. What are you talking about? Why didn't anyone teach me real history? I do see color. I see yours, mine, and everybody's. You can't hide what's right in front of me. I know that what that police officer did was wrong. Go with your instincts on this one. Racial justice is possible. Okay, geez, you don't have to yell. But only if we're honest with each other and ourselves. I see a playground over there. Want to get some air? Yes. Your history's not all written yet. What do you want it to say? The end. And the story doesn't stop there. There are activities. Want to know whose liberation you are fighting for? Your own. White supremacy has been lying to kids for centuries. White supremacy is pretend, but the consequences are real. The truth is much simpler. Whiteness is a bad deal. It always was. You can be white without signing on to whiteness. Grow justice inside yourself, like a bean sprout in a milk carton. What if it dies? Plant it again. Never stop planting justice. A strong internal sense of justice will not fail you, even when a lack of justice in the world does. Innocence is overrated. Knowledge is power. Get some. Grow wise. Make history. That is not my idea, a book about whiteness.
Hello, I'm Naomi Polanetska, co-chair of the anti-racism team. Today I'm going to say a few words about caste, with a grateful nod to Isabel Wilkerson, who wrote the remarkable must-read book that many at USNH are reading and discussing. She defines caste as, quote, an artificial construction, a fixed ranking of human value that pits the presumed supremacy of one group against the presumed inferiority of another group. Caste is different from race because it's immutable. You can't escape the color of your skin. Wilkerson says caste is in the bones, race is in the skin. There's no implied upward mobility in a caste system. In the 19th century, Italians, Greeks, Jews, and the Irish were subjects of overt racism. The group was not considered white until the 20th century. In 1922, Henry Pratt, a sociologist, said of these immigrants, quote, if he proves himself a man, acquires wealth, then we might receive him in a generation or two. But whatever you do, you can never be more than 2/3 of a white person in the Constitution if you're black. That is caste. Caste is about who is feared, who gets respect, and who has authority, and who carries the assumption of competence and morality, and who does not. In this political climate of white nationalism, we see the stigmatizing of people of color who are collectively dehumanized in order to maintain the social and economic order. In this hierarchy, a white person will never be on the bottom as long as there's some group to look down upon. The overclass requires the debasement of other human beings to maintain its power structure, the status quo. We watched caste in action on January 6 during the storming of Congress. The police response to the insurrection involved no tear gas, no rubber bullets for this group. Participants were shocked that there were any consequences at all. My favorite quote from The Nation was a woman who said, quote, "This is not America. They're shooting at us. They're supposed to be shooting at Black Lives Matter, but they're shooting at us," end quote. This is America. We saw ourselves. This was the manifestation of innate white superiority that is reflected in the structures and systems of our lives. The poison of caste in America is deeply entrenched. It will require radical empathy and enormous commitment and energy of us all to eradicate it. We need to reconnect with our basic humanity in order to dismantle its structures.
My name is Sharon McBlain. The Pastoral Care Program here at USNH offers a ministry of support for members and friends. We're supportive of people through crises, transitions, and difficult situations. We listen compassionately and offer support. There are some joys and sorrows we want to share today. We mourn the deaths of those recently murdered in Atlanta, Georgia, and Boulder, Colorado. Our congregation rises in solidarity with Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, particularly our fellow USNH members. Linda Mehta shared, "Here's my joy of 2020, a bit belatedly shared, but no less joyful now. My first grandchild, in fact, was born to my daughter, Katja, and her partner, Jacob, on November 7th. Naomi Polanetska shares her joy and pride in Tanisha Drummond's selection as one of 4 finalists in Channel 8's Remarkable Woman Awards. Tune in to see Tanisha on Channel 8 News, WTNH News on Tuesday. The Tuesday segment will be about Tanisha, and it was the segment that was filmed with joy at Waverly and with the Waverly Kids on Wednesday. In so many ways, we are separated. We wish we could share our joys with each other with a hug and a smile, and our sorrows with a kind word or embrace. But here we are in our Zoom boxes, making the best of our present situation. Although most of our service is recorded, and many of you may be watching on YouTube, we do have a tool that will allow us to communicate with each other in real time. This morning, as John Pearson plays his trumpet, we invite you to share your joys and sorrows in real time by typing them into the chat that is at the bottom of your screen. Please take time to share together, this time, the warmth of this gathered community. While preparing this service, I have been reading Brian Stevenson's book, Just Mercy. He wrote, "The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice." Our commitment at USNH to creating justice is clear. We encourage you to keep that thought in your heart today as you offer your financial support to this congregation. You may not be able to contribute in person, but we still need your offering more than ever to support the ministries of this congregation in these challenging times. While you listen to our music, you can make your offering in one of two ways. Use the donate button on the right-hand side of your home web page, of our home web page at usnh.org, or mail a check to 700 Hartford Turnpike, Hamden, Connecticut.
Hello, my name is Joanna Scaparati, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I have been a friend of USNH since the fall of 2020. One of the things that drew me to USNH is the congregation's values of inclusivity and diversity, and the efforts to welcome all. I joined the Anti-Racism Task Force because I want to be the best anti-racist ally I can be until everyone has the same opportunities, privileges, and sense of safety that I have. I have family members that do not share the same skin color as me, and I'm sad and angry that they face a crueler world than I do every day. I would like to give you an example of how a white family's experiences can be dramatically different from those of a family with black and brown family members. For the last 6 months, I have been watching the real estate market and preparing to buy my first home here in Hamden. My experience is probably something many of you are familiar with. Although my mother and grandmothers did not have the option to pursue a mortgage and purchase their own home as unmarried women, this is a privilege I have as a white woman in 2021. I do not have to give any thought to the fairness of the process for me. I can expect to be offered a pre-approval letter and competitive mortgage rate on a loan based on my work history and credit score. I can expect most people I interact with in this process to be courteous and professional. I anticipate that my future home will be appraised at market value based on other sales in the same neighborhood, and that if I want to sell my home in the future, that any good realtor will list my house at market value. I learned about a biracial family in Florida who received a lower house appraisal value when a black family member was present. Their first appraisal came back 41% less than the second appraisal they scheduled after removing all photos of black family members to make the house appear more white. Another family in Colorado trying to refinance their house in January had a similar experience. Their house appraisal came in $145,000 higher after making sure none of their black family members were present at the second appraisal. Here in Connecticut, a black family had a white neighbor stand in for them at a second appraisal and receive a value of $60,000 higher that was more aligned with the comparable houses in the neighborhood. Not only could these lower appraisals have affected these families' ability to refinance, it would have hurt their ability to pass along generational wealth to their children. Andre Perry, author of Know Your Price, Valuing Black Lives and Property in America's Black Cities, says that although discrimination based on race in home appraisals was made illegal by the Fair Housing Act of 1968, segregation and discrimination against black people is deeply rooted in the country's history, and many of the appraisal practices are still used today. Perry says homes in black neighborhoods where the share of the black population is greater than 50% are undervalued by 23%, about $48,000 per home. That equates to about $156 billion in lost equity. When we look at black assets, we judge them like we judge black people, Perry says, and so we reduce the value. He says that appraisers, 93% of whom are white, have trouble seeing comps in more diverse urban neighborhoods because of bias and racism. As a white person who may think that this isn't their problem, Perry says to think again. If the house of a black or mixed family down the street gets underappraised, the value of other houses in the neighborhood also goes down. This is just one example of how systemic and other forms of racism hurt us all.
My name is Patrick Korth. My pronouns are he and him. As someone who fought for social and economic justice alongside strong black leaders in the 70s and 80s, and also in many other ways throughout my life, the new drive for racial justice has opened me to a hard realization. The racist status quo has been comfortable for me 24/7 as a white male just living my life. This is a very uncomfortable realization. It does not jive with my view of myself as one of the nice guys. But racial discomfort is inherent in the authentic examination of white supremacy. How have I managed to not know the true damage done by the day in, day out micro and macro aggressions that people of color live with? Although my white privilege tells me that I should be able to figure out what to do and write in and fix some things, I know I have a lot of work to do to truly understand the depth of white supremacy and how it impacts every aspect of life in America. It has been described as the most complex social system of the last several hundred years, and I am not immune to its influence. This is hard work, and I hope to build my racial stamina so when I see, or harder still, when it's pointed out to me, that I am acting out of my white privilege, that I will be able to be open to learning and growing and not be dismissive or defensive. White supremacy will not be defeated in my lifetime, but I hope to become a good ancestor and to help plant some seeds of change for the generations to come. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julia Ladke-Cote, and I'd like to share with you some reflections after reading and discussing the UUA's report, Widening the Circle of Concern, which came out in June 2020. This is in direct connection to Patrick's message. White people need to listen to Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color. This report, right here, is the perfect opportunity for white Unitarian Universalists to listen. After incidents of racism within the UUA several years ago, a commission on institutional change was formed. They put out a call for testimony on experiences with racism in Unitarian Universalism. They conducted interviews and focus groups, and thousands of people submitted testimony. Most of these voices were from people of color. So here, right here, is a chance for white people to listen to what they have to say. The main finding from listening to these voices is that the vast majority of those interviewed experienced discriminatory or oppressive incidents in UU circles. This creates harm and causes many to leave the faith altogether. Change is necessary on two fronts. First and foremost, there is a spiritual necessity to truly, fully live the 7 principles, especially the pillar principles of inherent dignity and worth of all people and the interdependent web of existence. Anti-oppression work must start within USNH. Our covenant is frayed and broken by white supremacy culture. White people need to acknowledge that our resources were amassed at the expense of Black people, of Indigenous people, and of people of color. There's tension in our faith between individualism and interdependence, but it's time to recommit to our collective covenant, not only within our congregation, but also to our covenant to all UU congregations. The second necessity is for the survival of Unitarian Universalism as a denomination. The report finds that the future of our faith is at stake. We must ask ourselves, how will our living tradition keep up with the times? Unitarian Universalist congregations are losing members. The nation is moving away from institutional religion, especially younger generations. Demographics are changing, and white people will be the minority by 2044. This highlights the essential need for more cultural competency. We are also living in a time when my generation of millennials could use UU faith, but are often put off by a lack of multiculturalism. Young people today have less opportunity, higher costs of living, higher income inequality, and lower quality of life than previous generations. Thus, we have more need than ever for a sustaining faith. The report is full of ideas for change. It calls for new definitions of competency for religious leaders. We need training in cultural competency and accountability structures for harm done to non-white people. We need support systems and affinity groups for UUs of color so that they can have spaces to heal from the harm done to them. We need more resources and education on anti-racism and centering marginalized voices and experiences. Finally, it is possible to do an audit of our own practices here at USNH to assess our cultural competency and our institution's identity in relationship to racism. The report provides examples of other congregations doing this successfully. One last important point that I took away from the report is that white culture often has an either-or mentality. Either we can look inward at our own relationship to racism, or we can fight injustices outside of our congregation. Either we can fight racism, or we can fight climate change. But these are false binaries. It's the same spiritual work. The report is full of testimony from Black people, Indigenous people, and people of color in Unitarian Universalism. I encourage you to read it for yourselves. You can borrow my copy if you want. In the spirit of centering the voices of people of color, I will leave you with a quote from an Afro-Latinx woman religious leader that was on page 76 of the report. I think, looking back over my decade of involvement with Unitarian Universalism, that I was too polite for too long. Some of my younger colleagues of color come in now and they are much more real. I get through my days, I do what I need to do, and sometimes I say what I want to say. You sing songs without understanding the history, the pain, and the faith that birthed them. You change the words without understanding how that distinctly changes the meaning of our songs. Yes, a lot has changed. In a lot more congregations, people wouldn't try to violate my body or touch me or try to send me to another church. And yet every day, someone says something ignorant, truly ignorant, about someone who looks like my mama or my aunties or my kids. And that takes a toll. It really does. Why do I stay? Because what we believe is what I believe. And no color owns that. Because the young people coming in are fierce, and I can't help but want to see where that goes. Thank you so much.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. The benediction is by Aisha Hauser, former Director of Children and Family Programs at the Unitarian Universalist Association. We are a people of faith, a faith that demands of us reflection, determination, and yes, a commitment to justice. Centering the voices of the marginalized will be part of becoming whole as a faith and as a people. May it be so, and blessed be.
good to me. Oh, won't you please have some pity? You know, I'm all alone in this great big city. Oh, 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 I'm a poor lamb lost in the woods. So, lady, be good to me, yeah. Oh, won't you please have some pity? You know, I'm all alone in this big old mean old beautiful city. Oh, I'm just a poor lamb lost in the woods. So, lady, be good to me, yeah. Won't you please be good to me?